The T3C strategic cruisers are absolutely some of my favourite ships in EVE Online. They look really cool, which is always worth bonus points, they are versatile, they're surprisingly powerful, and there's just something really cool about a ship that is this modular that you can design it pretty much to anything you want it to do. These are ships that are powerful for PvE, for PvP, you can have multiple different weapon systems used on them. They are great for wormholing, and if you want to go with sort of a more cloaky setup, you can even use them as logistics vessels. Essentially, a fleet of tier 3 strategic cruisers can be a terrifyingly versatile thing. And so in this video, I wanted to talk to you all about what a tier 3 cruiser actually is, how they work, and why you should probably be aiming towards one of them. Ahoy there folks, I'm Captain Benzie, and by the end of this video, hopefully you are as excited and in love with these vessels as I am. First of all then, let's open up the ship tree and talk about what the T3 strategic cruisers actually are. First of all, the term T3, you should already understand that the basic ships that are along the bottom of the skill tree here are the tier 1 ships, Tech 1 ships. Then you can go up to more specialised vessels above them that use the same hulls as a basis but then modify that ship into new and exciting directions. For example, how the Rupture is a Tech 1 Minmatar cruiser, but then you have both the Munin and the Broadsword being Rupture variants at Tech 2 that do a lot more exciting things, like the Broadsword being a heavy interdiction cruiser and the Munin being a heavy assault cruiser. Right at the very top of these branches, we have the strategic cruisers. These are what we're focusing on in this video. For the Minmatar Republic, that is the Loki. For the Amar Empire, that is the Legion. For the Caldari State, that is the Tengu. And for the Gallente Federation, that is the Proteus. And these have some pretty unique skill requirements in order to reach them, which we'll talk about briefly. But when you look at one of these on the ship tree, the first thing you'll notice is it doesn't really have much in the way of roll bonuses as compared to other ships. Like if we were to go back down to, say, the Broadsword, you can see Heavy Interdiction Cruisers gives it certain bonuses, Minmatar Cruiser gives it certain bonuses, and then it has its own roll bonuses. You can also click into this, go into Show Info, and under Fittings, it will tell you what the different fittings and slots are available on this ship. If you're to do this on one of the T3 cruisers, however, you're not going to get that information, or not as clearly at least. Under Fitting, there's nothing here. We've just got medium rig slots, so what the hell is going on? Well, basically, T3 cruisers use subsystems. Every type of strategic cruiser has 4 different possible subsystem slots to it. You have core subsystems, defensive subsystems, offensive subsystems, and propulsion subsystems. And each of those subsystems has 3 different options to put into it. So there are 3 different Minmatar core subsystems, 3 different Minmatar propulsion subsystems, so on and so forth. Now, those different subsystems then give you all kinds of versatility. They will apply different skill bonuses, they will apply different roll bonuses, and they will actually change the slot layout of your ship as well. For example, looking at the Loki, one of the offensive subsystems gives you a load of high slots and a load of turret hardpoints and bonuses to both autocannons and the long-ranged artillery cannons. Whereas another one of those subsystems gives you a load of high slots, but then a load of missile hardpoints instead, and has bonuses to heavy assault missiles and heavy launches, etc. This is kind of the major advantage of the strategic cruisers. You can fit these to do all kinds of different things, and when we go into the defensive subsystems, you've got ones that just whack up your defenses and give you certain amounts of low slots or mid slots. We've got ones that will actually give you less low slots and mid slots, but in return will allow you to fit covert ops cloaks. There's a core subsystem that will allow you to fit interdiction nullifiers, additional power grid, this kind of thing. It's such a versatile system with these ships as to how you build them depending on the role you want. Looking at the Loki that I've currently got docked here, for example, if I open up the fitting window, you can see that this particular one is trained into autocannons. I've got the ability to use the cloaks, I've got a whole load of mid slots and a load of low slots, but depending on how you fit the Loki subsystems, you might end up with very few mid slots and a whole ton of low slots with bonuses to armor repairers and things like that. It's that versatility is what excites me about these ships, and you can see here the 4 slots along the side here for those different subsystems. It's also worth noting that these are unique in the fact that they are the only ships where you can actually just unfit rigs. You don't have to destroy them, you can unfit them, play around with them, and put them back into the ship. It's a bit of a complex system to first get to grips with, but they are really interesting and worth looking at. It's somewhat difficult to see all of the different options because there's no direct way to just show information and see all of the different subsystems in one place along here, but you absolutely can look in on the market, for example, and see all of the different subsystems available there. Like, I would kind of hope they would have this in a menu here somewhere. Okay, they kind of do. If you wanted to have a look at them one by one, for example, here you can come in and have a look at the different types of Loki offensive, the projectile scoping array, for example, being the one that is predominantly used for your different types of projectile turrets. Then we can come down to the launcher efficiency configuration, that's the one that we use for missiles, whereas we then have the support processor, which is the one you use for logistics, remote armor repairers, and shield boosters. So, lots of different versatility. It's just difficult to kind of look at these and make notes on what these ones all do, then have to go in and look at the different subsystems in order to actually pick the ones that you want. So it is worth grabbing a pen and paper, maybe heading across to certain tools like, for example, EVE University, and having a look at what all the different subsystems are, and you can play around with them there. Or of course you can go into the fitting menu and play with it there as well, going into simulation and moving the different aspects around. Now, what makes these so exciting to me, and I'm going to move across to the Tengu now as an example, because this is another ship that I absolutely love here. These are not only just really cool ships, they visually change and update depending on the subsystems that you're using, by the way. So my Loki might look very different to your Loki, and that's before we've even included skins and things like that to it. My Tengu might look very different to yours because your subsystems are somewhat different. So for example, if we do actually jump back to the Loki and I pull this up here, this is a Loki that is currently using the interdiction nullifiers, the covert reconfiguration, projectile scoping, etc. But what if you decided that you wanted to use the immobility drivers, you wanted to go for the wake limiter, the launcher efficiency, and the adaptive defense? Suddenly, you've got a very different looking ship there to the one that we were just looking at, or indeed the one that I've currently got docked up. We can make it even more different by changing this to the augmented nuclear reactor. He says clicking the right button, and when this loads you'll see it is again a completely different looking ship, and so there's all kinds of different versatility to it just in that way. But the fact that you can fit one of these to do so many different tasks, like I have a Tengu and a Loki on my characters that I use for running C3 wormhole sites, but I can also fit them for Black Ops logistics, for PvP. I can change them to be like the kind of ship that I run a relic and a data site in whilst I go scanning. There are so many different possibilities and options based on how you choose to build them. And again, even just the weapon systems. The fact that the Loki I can go with projectiles or I can go with missiles. The Tengu I can go for hybrids or missiles. The Legion, the Amar version of the ship, I can go for lasers, energy weapons, or missiles. I can then go into the Proteus where I can use hybrids and drones and all this kind of thing. There's so many different versatile options there. But it doesn't stop there either, because you might think, well, okay, but there's a lot of skills there that are training up into this ship, right? So it's a lot of effort to dedicate into one of these, and it is worth noting that Tier 3 strategic cruisers are the only cruisers that cannot enter abyssal dead spaces, so that if that's the kind of content you enjoy, then you're not going to be able to bring these into the abyssals. You're going to need other ships for that, right? But the point is, you're going to be skilling through stuff to get to here anyway. If I open up the skill book, for example, here, and I move into, ignore the fact that I'm training to blockade runners for the moment, if I were to go into Spaceship Command and have a look, for example, at the Amar version of this, Amar Strategic Cruiser, let's go show info and we can see what you need. Required for the Legion. If we go into requirements, then you need a Amar Cruiser up to 5, which of course means Amar Destroyer 3, Amar Frigate 3, and Spaceship Command 2. You should be having those no trouble anyway. But going all the way into Amar Cruiser 5 in order to train into a Legion does mean that there's a certain amount of dedication going on there. But then you've got Amar Cruiser 5. And suddenly it's really easy to train into literally any other cruiser as well. You just need to go into the other points. Like, for example, I have a Tengu on my main character, so I've got all of the Caldari cruiser skills up to 5. That means if we were to go back into the ship tree and across to the Caldari branch, for example, that Okay, I've got the Tengu skills. That means I've also got all the skills needed for any of the Tier 1 and Navy issue ships at the bottom, so I can quite comfortably fly, say, a Caracal or a Caracal Navy issue. But it's not that hard to then just go the extra step further and go, right, okay, well, I've already got Caldari Cruiser 5. If I wanted to fly, say, an Onyx, or if I wanted to go into something like a Cerberus, all I need to train here is heavy assault cruisers. And I'm already using missiles for the Tengu, so I've already got the missile skills there that this is going to be benefiting off. It's actually ridiculously easy to move towards it. Yes, okay, it sounds crazy having to train Caldari Cruiser 5, but I'd already done that to fly the Healer because I needed Caldari Cruiser 5 and Galente Cruiser 5. So I already had that skill. Suddenly all I needed to train was the Strategic Cruiser skill and all of the subsystem skills, because it's not just the Strategic Cruiser skill, it is the subsystems. Now, it used to also be the case that when you died in a strategic cruiser, that you lost a level of one of these systems. So, for example, if you had Caldari core systems, defensive systems, offensive systems, and propulsion systems all the way up to level 5, and you died in a Tengu, then it would pick one of those and drop it down to level 4, and you'd have to skill up again to get to level 5. That is no longer the case, so one of the main downsides of flying one of these cruisers is now completely gone. You can lose as many Tengus as you like, and you will not lose any of your skills anymore. So why would you not want to fly one of these? And as I said, it's that versatility and that option of how you go up there. For me, again, because I enjoy abyssal dead spaces and I'm training into the projectile turrets which I'm using on the Loki here, then if I come down, I'm already pretty skilled towards the Rupture, or the Stabber, or any of these other ones like the Stabber Fleet issue here. Not so much the Scythe Fleet issue because I don't have missile skills, but it's now very easy for me, now that I've trained into the Loki, to also just come back here and sit there and say, well, actually I quite fancy flying, not the Munin, but perhaps the Vagabond. Maybe I would enjoy flying the Vagabond. I've already got, Minmatar Cruiser 5, I've already got a load of the medium projectile turret skills. All I need is the heavy assault cruiser skill and job's a good one. In the meantime, I can be running my Rupture through abyssal dead spaces, good way to get ISK, or I can be going C3 wormhole ratting with my Loki. There's so much going on here, and even then, like, final example, if I decide that actually, you know what, I really want to try the heavy missile version of the Loki, I've already got most of the skills, I can still fly it as an autocannon Loki whilst I'm training up the heavy missile skills, and now suddenly, a load of these become available for me to fly as well, like going into a Bellicose, or now going for the Munin and using those missile skills with it. It's a gate opener. It's not as restrictive as you might think as something that requires 5 different skills to get the most out of. The simple fact is the core defensive, offensive, and propulsion system skills aren't actually that long to train. The longest skill by far to get into a Loki is the Minmatar Cruiser 5, and once you've got over that hump, it's quick to get into the Loki, and there's not much you need to do to hit all of these other ones here. And if I then decide that, okay, I really want to try out the Logistics Loki, and if I like that, I can skill into a Scimitar. Like, there's so much that just opens up. And it's the same with the Legion. Like, this particular character isn't, but like my main character has the Tengu, and I've decided I quite fancy trying out a Ham Legion as well. So I've been training into a Mar Cruiser 5. That's not just for the Legion, that's also going to give me access to things like the Curse, or heck, I can go into something like, not the Devoter, something like the Sacrilege, because I've got those heavy missile skills. I'm just opening up new ships whilst aiming for something else. And to me, that's really cool. Now, I do certainly intend to do some fitting guides on these ships as well. I'm thoroughly enjoying flying the Loki right now on this character. I love the Tengu on my main character. I'll be skilling into the Legion very soon for that one as well. I don't know if I'll ever go into the Proteus because that seems a lot of different skills compared to what I already have. Like, my main already has Galente Cruiser 5, sure. But I then need the hybrid turret skills or better drone skills. I don't know, I probably will. I enjoy these ships that much that I will probably end up skilling into all 4 options of them. Because why not, right? There's so much I can do with each of them. And there will be so many videos that I will put out talking about different types of content you can do with them. I've already got one for the Loki that I'm ready to release, for the Tengu, sorry, that I'm ready to release soon, and it won't be long now before I do one for the Loki as well, and show how I'm flying this and what kind of content I'm doing with it. But even then, it's not just going to be one video for the Tengu, one for the Loki. There's so many different things I can do with each of them. I can show you how I use my missile Tengu. I can then show you how I use my autocannon Loki. I can then show you how I use a missile Loki, or a missile Legion, or a laser Legion. PvP fits, PvE fits, and it's going to be different for wormholing ratting than going DED site ratting or going hunting in nullsec, and there's so many different options that I can showcase and so much that I want to share with you on this one. So I will be opening up a playlist specifically for these ships as well. I do also apologise for the really choppy frame rate. I don't know why it's suddenly doing that. When I set up the recording it was fine, but hey, do check on my main page and at the end of this video and in the description. I will have a tier 3 strategic cruiser playlist set up so that I can showcase to you all the different kinds of crazy things you can do with these ships, just as I'll have an Abysal Dead Space playlist set up to showcase that kind of content. Keep an eye on the playlists, right? Anyway folks, if you are flying a tier 3 strategic cruiser, let me know which is your favourite and why. What kind of content are you doing with it? What fits do you run with them? What do you want to see me showcase with these different ships? I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Otherwise folks, thank you ever so much for all your support. Apologies for my super croaky voice at the moment. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden!